to show you how to start your grid drawing. So you have already done this with the tiger grid, where you started drawing out your tiger box by box. This is the exact same process. You're basically going to be taking your grid in paper, your 8-inch, which should have 8 boxes along the short side, by 12-inch paper, which should have 12 boxes along the long side. And you'll notice the same amount on my photograph. You want to go box by box, exactly the same as the tiger grid. And what you're trying to focus on is getting the contour lines or outlines drawn in. You're also going to focus on any areas that have high contrast. So for example, I'm definitely going to be drawing these high contrasting areas here of this object, but I'm also going to be focusing on things like the shadow that shows up in the background. Even though this is not an object, it is something that I can still see and something that I should definitely draw on my paper since it's in my photograph so clearly. Now, the other thing I'm going to consider are all of these individual detail lines. So in addition to outlines, I also want to pay attention to these smaller details here and there. So this plane that's in this image has painted lines on it, which you can see in this photograph. So I'm going to go ahead and continue, or start my drawing. And the first thing I'm going to do is, you'll notice that a lot of my boxes are empty here. So I'm going to start off in a box that has something in it. So the first box I'm going to do is going to be, I'm going to put this behind here. It's going to be 2 spaces down and 4 over. If you want, you can actually number on your photograph how many sides you have. You can even write those numbers on your paper. Keep in mind, though, that you'll want to erase those later, so you should definitely draw lightly. So I'm going to start in box 2 down, 4 over. And if you prefer to do kind of like Battleship, where you have the letters along one side and numbers along the other side, you could do that too. So 2 down and 4 over, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where the hand, or part of this arm is going to exist. But remember, I'm not drawing the arm, I'm drawing the lines that I'm seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in nice and close so you can get an idea of how this works. All right, so 2 down, 4 over. So remember, I am not trying to draw the arm. I am trying to draw the little detail, or the little lines that I see. So this line starts over half, I would say about 1/3 of the way down from the top. Just about where I'm seeing that, 1/3 of the way down this line. And then it continues, we'll say it goes down to this spot, which if I divide it in half and divide it again, it's about 1/4 of that box. So if I divide it in half, divide it again, it's going to meet to about right there. So I can draw in a line that pretty much represents that line there. If I look very closely, there is another little line that kind of creeps up over here. And I'm going to draw that in too. And then on this side, there is a very slight line right here. Sometimes when I'm not sure how to draw a line, I can even draw it directly on the page. Remember to draw very lightly, though. You don't want to throw off your shading. And you can always reprint the photo too, to help myself understand what kind of line I'm making. Now I need to know where exactly this curve comes to, and it looks like in relation to this space, it's about 1/3 of the way over again. So I want this to curve, and then when it meets down at the bottom, it's a little bit past halfway. So it's going to widen as it gets down here. So there you go. That's the lines that I'm seeing. And now I want to do kind of a circular form right here, a curved line, which starts just at the base of this object here, or at the top of this object here, excuse me. And then it doesn't quite go and meet this line up here, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. Now when I move on to my next box, I'm going to need to make sure that all of my lines are connecting, but I'm also going to be paying attention to what kinds of lines I'm seeing in this new box. Now, something to keep in mind with my drawing versus my photograph is that my lines are a lot thicker on my photograph than they are on my paper. This is somewhat distracting. It's best to try not to draw on with a thick Sharpie like I did. I did that so that people could see when I was doing the demonstration. But for you, hopefully it'll be a little easier because you will have you'll be able to see a little more clearly since you use pencils. Now I'm looking at this and it looks like it comes out just a little bit more. And I'm just going to correct that. And then I've got this very odd form here. Now if I look at where the point of the form is, it meets, if I divide this in half here and divide it again, it's about a quarter this box. So if I divide it in half, divide it again, it's a quarter there. And then it goes down to, let's say, just below this form here. So I'm going to see a rounded form, do one of these, and it curves and meets this form right here. So I do believe this might be a little too long. There you go. It is important when you're working to kind of sit back and kind of look at it and make sure that it does make sense, that it seems to or appears to match what you have drawn. If there's an angle that's a lot steeper here than it is here, then I'm going to have a little bit of an issue and want to go back and fix that. Now, while I'm drawing, I'm just going to keep going box by box, and you can see that it really wasn't that difficult to get that form, that same exact form in this space. And that's because I'm going box by box, rather than trying to draw the form out without any kind of measurements. I am using the measurements on this grid to help me do this. Now keep in mind, if you have a really complicated part of your image, maybe like right here, I can divide it up again with cross sections, and I can do the same on my paper. So this is 9. And I would have to make sure that if I'm doing that on my photograph, that I also do it on my paper. Now you would definitely want to make sure the more exact these are, the better. So if you want to find the center, to make sure it's perfectly lined up, then you can do the thing that you learned how to do from perspective, which is use an X to find the center. And then you can divide it up. It is important that this entire time you are drawing lightly. So be sure that while you're drawing, you are drawing very lightly, and that you're drawing what you're seeing in each individual box. So if I broke this up again, it would be a lot easier to draw all those little individual forms. So hopefully this helps you get started. Hopefully you find it a lot easier than if you were to just start off without a grid. And I hope that you enjoy this assignment. Thank you for watching.